So this is a pretty common question that we get a lot. I fell behind in my own savings to pay for my child's college. Now that they're finished college, I have some extra money to save. Where should I save this money? Is the order max Roth IRA, max 401k, and then put the excess into a taxable account?
Yeah, okay. So somebody is, paid for college. I got two kids in college right now. I can sympathize with that. And they feel like they've fallen behind on their retirement planning because of that. Where do I put the money? How do I deal with that? And there's lots of different options. It kind of depends on what you actually have available. But let's say that you work at a company that has a match. So you have to get that match. If they're going to, let's say you put in, they have all kinds of formulas, but I just use dollars. Let's say you're going to put in $1,000 and they're going to match that $1,000. That's 100% rate of return. You can't not get that. There isn't anything better than that. You're getting 100% rate of return on that. And again, every company has different matching criteria. Some don't match at all. But if you do have a match, put in enough to get the full match because that is a great rate of return. And then the vehicles. So if you have a Roth 401k available, I would recommend that. And I've said this before that the traditional 401k, you get the write off. So when you put in that $1,000, you get to take that off of your income. That's fantastic. If you use the Roth, you don't get to take that after your income. So it's after tax dollars, which is more expensive, but then it grows tax free for the rest of your life. And when you get to be 72, you don't have to take money out for required minimum distributions. The Roth is just so powerful. And I've just seen that throughout the practice. So I would start with the Roth 401k if I got the match. If I don't have a Roth 401k, then I'd look at the traditional 401k, especially if I got the match. So those got to be at the beginning of the story. Any vehicle. There's all kinds of different places that you might get a match, but those are the two biggest ones, certainly. And then you get into all these different areas like an IRA, which you do get a write-off on, or a Roth IRA, which you don't get a write-off on. Sometimes you don't qualify for a Roth IRA. It has income limits, so they have to take that into consideration. I would encourage you to take a look at non-retirement accounts, at least somewhat. Having 10 to 30% of your savings money going into just regular accounts, I call them trust accounts or individual accounts or taxable accounts, whatever you want to call them. They're not IRAs, they're not 401ks, they're not 403bs, 457 plans, all of those things. They're the object there is to create some liquidity and have something that's generating capital gains taxes in your future instead of ordinary income taxes that you might get out of an IRA or traditional 401k. And again, this is just something I've seen within the practice where people get kind of locked. They got all kinds of money in their house, but they don't want to sell it and they don't want to borrow against it. Fair enough. And then they have all kinds of money in these IRAs, which is great. They're wealthy, but then they want to do something big, buy another house or do something else, and they can't get to their money without getting killed in tax, especially single people who really have, these tax brackets are quite low for them. And so it's really nice to have some liquidity built up outside of your home and outside of your retirement plan. So that would be a piece of what I would look at as part of that catch up. But you got to get that match first, right? I think that is critical.
Yeah, and so if there's a match for your 401k, your Roth 401k, it's considered tax deferred. Whatever an employer puts in is considered tax deferred.
Yeah.
And so you should be aware of that. And so it's a nice way if you want to build kind of like three different buckets, tax deferred, tax free. It's a good way to get those two buckets done in a simpler way.
Yeah, that's a good point. What Ethan's saying is that okay, if I put in $1,000 uh, into a Roth 401k and they match me 1,000, my 1,000 goes into this tax-free growth account. The other 1,000 for the match goes into a tax deferred, which just means it doesn't grow tax-free. It just I'll have to pay the taxes sometime down the road when I take it out or I'm forced to take it out, much like a traditional 401k would be. They don't allow that contribution from the company to go into that tax-free growth. But he's right. You actually kind of end up with all three things that way. If you have addition, catch the match on a Roth 401k, and then you've got your company add-on going into the tax deferred portion, and then you put some money into a taxable account. You can get all three, fairly simply that way. And yeah, that's a great strategy too. I like it.